Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dale, for the great introduction. I'm Gail Crockett, and I certainly want to thank the Rapeseed Congress as well as Cargill for hosting us. Quick question just to get started. How many botanists are out in the audience? Can you just raise your hand if you're a botanist? So a few. Well, I'm not a botanist. I can tell you a little bit about the science of canola. I am a chemical engineer, but I'm delighted to tell you a whole lot more about how McDonald's uses canola and why we value canola. So to get us started, a few years ago, we redefined our mission, our brand statement, and it's about good food, good people, good neighbor. That's really important, obviously, because we're a food company. We serve many, over 69 million customers a day globally. And then, of course, being accountable to the communities in which we serve and we work is critically important. It also helps us prioritize. So during the day, as we're all bombarded with lots of things to do, we really default to how does this fit within good food, good people, and good neighbor. And obviously, as we think about our people, particularly those that are working in our restaurants, helping them give better service is also critically important to us. Now, the sheer size of McDonald's means that numbers are big. So after joining in 2002, I was a little bit naive, and I remember having a decision to make. It was a $175,000 decision, and somebody kind of smirked at me as I went to them for counsel. Now, we don't smirk at those numbers today, but when you look at the sheer size, 35,000 restaurants globally, 15,000 in North America, as you can imagine, anything that we do, we have to take into account the size of McDonald's to make sure that we're making the right decisions for ourselves and for our customers every day. The 69 million guests still kind of blows me away a little bit every day. And then the 27 million guests in just the US and Canada, I think is understated. I've recently seen data that says just for breakfast, we think that we exceed that number of customers every day. Now, a little bit about what we call the three-legged stool, and it's truly not it sounds corporate speakish, but we live it every day. Our owner-operators, which own approximately 90% of our restaurants, certainly within the US and very close to that globally. Our company folks, so like Mitch and myself, who really work together with our owner-operators as well as with our suppliers to make McDonald's very special. It is truly a partnership. We partner with our owner-operators. If you see advertising on television, that advertising doesn't get there without a positive vote from our owner-operators. As we develop new products, as we look at emerging issues, we're not doing that on our own. We rely very heavily on the expertise of all of our suppliers. So I do love the three-legged stool, and we do live it every day. Now, from a supply chain standpoint, and I'm going to build the slide just so you guys can read some of these things here. From a supply chain standpoint, our supply chain values are about partnership. So you may have heard that supply chain does not use contracts. We really don't with our suppliers. We do have pricing protocols, which are basic guidelines on how we will function and how we'll partner together. If there is a problem to be solved, we will work with our suppliers to do that. It's not an autocratic relationship. So as Mitch and I deal with our suppliers, if we're seeing sort of head nodding to what we're saying, it certainly gives me reason to dig a little bit deeper and really find out what's going on so we get the expertise of our suppliers and not just, yep, we'll do whatever you want us to do. That's not how we work within the McDonald's system, certainly not within supply chain. So there's strategic relationships. McDonald's, so you can imagine some of those relationships are pretty mature as well, but they are so important. Onboarding a new supplier tells us immediately just how special our existing suppliers are and how they really function in what we call a system-first way. So there's a bit of a dilemma. I think that we certainly feel within McDonald's, and I think other food and restaurant companies are feeling today. And that dilemma is that customers want healthy choices, but they also want their craveable favorites. So how do you have both of those things reside within a menu without making the menu overly complicated? We want to respond and offer balance, healthy options, again, without having a more complex menu. And that's critically important for our continued growth and health as a company, as I'm sure many of our competitors are seeing as well. So we're proud of our high quality ingredients. I don't think we talk about it enough, although we're starting to. Canola, high oleic canola, is one of those high quality ingredients. So we continue to improve our menu. We've formed, certainly within the US, food experience teams where we're working with the three legs of the stool to look at simplifying our labels, to look at how do we evolve food as to whether it's beef or buns or potatoes. Anything on the menu is pretty much open for discussion. We want to maintain the high quality, but we also want to simplify the labels because we know that's what our customers are looking for. We have, since 2014, in fact, going back to 2013, looked at reducing sodium. So out of chicken and cheese, we've reduced sodium by approximately 10%. We've looked at our beverages and we've reduced sugar. From a Happy Meal standpoint, it was pretty controversial, but we started adding fruit and reducing the size of our world-famous fries. And all of that is about offering balance and choice to our customers. Now, Mitch is going to talk to us quite a bit about fries. It'll be neat to hear from him because he has so much experience with McDonald's and with potatoes and oil. But there are other things that we use canola oil with as well. So we just launched artisan grilled chicken in the US. It's natural chicken. The seasoning, it's an herb-based seasoning. And we use a canola olive oil blend developed for us with Cargill, really to spray the grill. So all natural, we're very proud of that. And again, it's another way that we're using canola. Excuse me. We're also using canola oil, obviously, for some of our crispy products, such as our world-famous McNuggets, as well as our crispy chicken. So I talked about big numbers. Here's some more big numbers. If we transition to potatoes, 22 billion pounds of frozen processed potatoes annually, and that's a global number. Now, McDonald's is number 2 in terms of utilizing processed potatoes. 12% of the global potato consumption is out of processed potatoes. So McDonald's being number 2, that's just behind Frito-Lay. So if you think about chips, fries, dried potatoes, those things all fall under that category. We use about 3.5 billion pounds or 1.6 million metric tons. And out of that, it's about 1% of the total global consumption. Now, get this, 15 varieties globally out of 5,000 potato varieties are used in our world-famous Mac fry. If you do the quick math, that's 0.3%. So pretty rarefied standards in terms of what we use for our Mac fry. So when we start talking about oil, you can apply the same standards that we are very, very particular. Now, there are 4 global processors that make up supply for about 75% of the total global French fry supply. We use those same global processors for about 95% of our system. Here in Canada, there's one supplier, and they use exclusively Canadian potatoes. And in the US, we use 3 suppliers, including that Canadian supplier. And so now, Mitch is going to talk a little bit more about fries.
So good morning, everyone, and thanks for the opportunity for us to talk to you about something that's pretty near and dear to our hearts, which is Mac fries. And so with that, I'll just jump right into it. So basically, Mac fries are our iconic brand, or are iconic to our brand. It's one of the key items that generates a tremendous amount of sales for us every year. And so we're very particular about them. So a little bit about golden on the outside, soft and fluffy on the inside, tender and crisp again on the outside. So they're only made with quality potatoes or cooked in a quality high oleic canola oil blend, and you can't get any better than that. So to assure that we make sure this stays consistent, we conduct what we call sensory evaluations about every other month. And to do those, what happens is out of the 13 plants that supply the United States, is we randomly pull samples and bring them in to look at them in a sensory evaluation. That sensory evaluation is made up of what we call a 9-point scale. And so what that means is that you have 1 through 9, 5 being target, and target is defined by all the attributes that we look at. And then you have either less or more going up the scale or down the scale. And that's done, like I said, by trained panelists every other month. So those categories, what are the categories? Well, it's appearance, it's texture and mouthfeel, and aroma flavor. And within each one of those categories, there are key attributes that we look at. And again, each one of those attributes is rated either 1, 2, or up to 9. So with that, we're trying to maintain, or we do maintain, consistency across the world. This is done in every major area of the world and used by our sensory evaluation labs across the globe. So it's, again, one of those key things that we do to make sure that we keep our eyes on the fries. So very simply, you know, what does this make? What makes up a mac, or what makes a mac fry the best? Well, it starts with the right potato, and I call it the 5 S's. So the right solids, the right size, the right shape, the right sugar levels, and the right susceptibility. And you all know about susceptibility in crops. So it creates blemishes and defects and other things that we don't want on our French fries. Then it's using the right oil, and of course it's made up with a blend, but the highest percentage of that blend is high oleic canola. And then it's processing it properly, doing it the right way, assuring that it's looked at and processed perfectly every day. And then it's cooked at our restaurants with the right equipment, at the right time and temperature, and then just the right amount of salt goes on it. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about the objective of when we started our journey on oil formulation. So it was to reduce or eliminate TFAs in fried foods without increasing saturates. The products couldn't sacrifice anything on flavor, texture, or quality, and store operations must be minimally impacted. So same great taste and texture. So that journey began in the late 90s to develop an oil that was trans-free according to the FDA definition. This choice was in anticipation of new labeling laws, as well as it was just the right thing for us to do. So I know this is kind of an eyesore, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the journey and what it looked like and where we were and where we are now. So in 1955, when we first started, we were using a formula called Formula 47, which was a blend of beef tallow and cottonseed oil. But one thing you may not know, at that time, we were cutting fresh potatoes in our restaurants, and it was a pretty big process to do all that every day. So in 1968-69, a gentleman named Ken Strong developed a patented process that allowed us to then begin using frozen French fries in our restaurants with the F47 or the tallow. Then in 1990, we converted over to a vegetable oil blend, primarily made up of soy, but it was a blend of soy and corn in order. And at that time, we also went through a lengthy process to make sure that it matched up as closely as possible with the blend that we had of tallow and cottonseed. So what was happening, or what happened, was a natural flavor was developed that contained tallow as a base, and it's added to the vegetable oil to give it that iconic flavor. And we still use the same one today, even in our new high oleic canola blend. in 99 or thereabouts is we worked together with Cargill on a white paper to begin the journey down of getting to zero TFAs. That being based upon what we believed was going to happen in the industry over time, which it did. And of course, as you know, partially hydrogenated oils now are not even on the GRAS list in the United States, and generally recognized as safe. So in 2008, we finally introduced our final blend into the restaurants of a blend of canola and other oils to achieve the same great flavor. And we continue to look at alternatives along the way. In fact, we've looked at a high oleic soy, but I don't want to talk too much about that. You might get nervous. So no, I'm teasing. We actually looked at it, and it really didn't meet our standards, and so we moved on beyond that. So in 2010, at the encouragement of our honorary chairman, Fred Turner, who has since passed away, but he was not happy with our craveability of our oil. So we actually went back and tweaked the formula and added a bit more soy to get a little more of that flavor in there. But the bottom line to it, again, the highest percentage is still high oleic canola. So now we've finally achieved the goal of 0 grams saturated fat per label serving. But I thought what I'd do is just take a moment and talk about what it took to get there. And it was a 7-year research effort. We looked at 18 different formulas, and that included benchtop formulations, screenings, pilot plant runs, and then actual production runs. We went through 50 quality center evaluations, 20 difference panels, 7 CLTs, which is a central location test, which is a very, very specific consumer evaluation where we bring consumers in and ask them questions about, do you see a difference? Would you buy it again, et cetera. So very, very extensive. And then we did 42 pre-post consumer panels before we even got to our final version. So you can tell we take our potatoes and our oil pretty seriously.
So earlier we talked about supply chain, our expectations of suppliers. I want to talk a little bit about Cargill and McDonald's and why it is a good partnership. Cargill, of course, supplies our specialty canola, our high oleic canola. Both mature companies, both very focused on continuing to remain relevant. But I've recently, because you got to go through some things, I think when you're in any partnership, so if you think about your personal relationships, it's great when things are smooth, but when you hit a couple of bumps, that's really when you find out who you're in partnership with. And, I'm proud to say that recently, we went through some business discussions with Cargill. Cargill came back and really exceeded expectations. Not saying that just because we happen to be their guests here. I would say that anywhere to anybody. So a strong appreciation for, I think, their understanding their business, for their leading and really working in a very system-first way on behalf of McDonald's. It is a strong partnership. I suspect that it will continue to be a strong partnership. So Cargill, in addition to high oleic canola, Cargill supplies McDonald's with eggs, supplies McDonald's with beef and liquid products, so savory sauces, dressings, and other products as well. So the financial strength, the longevity, again, their ability to work with us in a system-first manner makes Cargill a very valued supplier. Now, Mitch is going to talk more about high oleic canola.
So as a tag team, how are we doing? So why did we choose oops, what happened? So why did we choose high oleic canola oil for our blend? Well, it has a number of different traits and attributes that we wanted. One was it gave us the flavor that we were looking for in our new blend. It's also naturally healthy and very much low in saturated fat and contains 0 grams of trans fat. Why did we choose high oleic canola? Well, again, more stability than the traditional canola oils due to the low linolenics. Extended fry life without compromising quality. Again, with the linoleic content, it's good. It develops really good fried flavor, and higher oleics provide more improved nutritionals. So what I'm going to do now is take a little more of a deep dive into the benefits that we believe we achieved by moving to this blend. And so number one, better tasting foods. It's a pure, clean taste because of the oil composition. It means longer fry life at our restaurants because of the stability that it brings with the high oleics in it. And so it's less likely to be used beyond its discard point, which is key for our quality, delivering quality to our consumer every day. So we're looking for that balance of life versus quality, so before we have to discard it. Improved nutritionals, like 0 grams trans fat per serving, and then lower in saturated fat. And it was a huge move in saturated fat, even though we were using vegetable oil. And then the sustainability that it brings to the table. So, with today's focus on nutrition by the public, and it's no secret. You all know it. You all hear it. You all see it every day, and we all at McDonald's feel it every day. And that's why we're going through what we call the food experience team, at looking at where are we going to go, how are we going to get there, etc. And I think it's a key that we move forward. So, one of the reasons we went to canola oil, obviously because of the nutritional values. We also have other things that are going on, like Gail talked about, the reduction in salt across the board in our menu. The Happy Meal was redesigned to give a smaller serving of French fries and a serving of sliced apples. So the nutritional, again, was improved on that. And then, of course, we introduced what we called the under 400 calorie menu. So all of these are a commitment to our customer in terms of providing options and choices for them to look at. But as Gail said, there's this whole dilemma of what you say and what you do, and so we're still trying to figure out that situation. So, and then on a sustainability platform, we call it our Journey Together for Good, and so it's made up of really five points. The first being source all of our food and packaging sustainably. And the focus here, at least, is on beef. It's on coffee and palm oil, and also on our fiber-based packaging. Of course, canola fits in with that because of since we implemented canola in 2007 up to date, I think there's been a 20% reduction in overall acres that we produce from because of the increase in yield that we're receiving from the high oleic CV65. So the second point was develop and operate the most environmentally efficient McDonald's restaurants. And so this is looking at increases in efficiency and energy use, etc., and then also through the amount of recycling that we do. And then number 3 is give back to our communities. And really, this is about improving children's lives and for their families through the Ronald McDonald Children's Charities. And there's a host of other things that McDonald's participates in terms of charities, as well as our suppliers spend a lot of time on this effort. Oops. Number 4 is a commitment to our people. I know you've probably heard and seen a lot of publicity about wages in the United States, and I can tell you that McDonald's is committed to our employees. In fact, I would tell you that at least the last 2 or 3 presidents or chairmen of the board started as crew people at McDonald's, and work their ways through college and up through the ranks to become, the head of a huge multinational company. So we are devoted and committed to people. And then we also have a goal of promoting diversity and inclusion. And then finally is provide balanced choices. And so the goal is to serve 100% more fruits, vegetables, low-fat dairy, and wheat across our menu. So I think you'll see that as we move forward and achieve that. So it's reduce sodium from salt, sugar, and saturated fat or calories across the menu. So a little bit about connecting sustainability across different sectors. As you can see, Canada is taking the first unique approach, where we're bringing two major roundtables together. This is the Canadian Roundtable for Sustainable Beef and the Canadian Roundtable for Sustainable Crops. We're using feed as the ability to do this and bring this as a starting point to get the groups together and talk about how to best utilize an approach to sustainable sourcing. The goal is actually to eventually broaden out to even more sectors, including malt, dairy, and poultry. I think the key here is that we cannot and shouldn't look at sustainability as commodity specific. It has to be looked at as an overall approach to where we go with the agricultural supply chain. So canola will be looked at not only just as food, but as fuel. Okay, I'm going to turn it back over to Gail.
So I've talked about the business side of supply chain, and want to continue that a little bit here. So there's some supply chain benefits in terms of our partnership, in terms of using canola oil and the way that we use canola oil. First of all, Mitch already mentioned cost savings. So high oleic canola versus canola really is more cost beneficial because of absorption. We use it for longer. And so that's a benefit to the restaurants. It's important to change oil at the right time, but obviously there's a cost savings if you don't have to change oil quite as often. And so that's a benefit. From a risk management standpoint, having predictable pricing. So we do work with Cargill, we work with our other suppliers on risk management, really being able to predict so that we can have predictable menu prices is a critical piece in our business and on the business side. And then the fully integrated supply chain piece, I get kind of happy about this. So being able to have visibility from the growers, from the seed side, all the way through to the finished product is very important, because we can then talk about that with our customers and feel good that we know what we're talking about and that we can actually have some visibility, again, all the way back to the grower side. That's becoming more and more important. And now we're going to play tag team again.
So, we want to take a little time so you understand what integrated supply chain means to us, at least in this particular instance. So if you take a look at the flow, and like Gail said, we have visibility from seed development all the way through till the products in a bag in a box at the restaurant or in a bulk oil tank. So you can see that there's really three major sectors in this. It's seed management and development, it's crop management, and it's processing management. So each one of those contribute to our abilities to protect our brand by being able to know from farm to food at the end, how it's been handled, how it's been treated. We're making sure that it's consistent. So it just was an attempt for you to see what that looks like.
All right, and the intent of this particular slide is to really talk about continuous improvement, continuous development. And again, how we expect this and how we utilize this very fully. So it's important, as I mentioned before, to manage our risks, to see what's coming around the corner. Our partnership with our suppliers helps us do that. We utilize them as experts. Certainly Cargill gives us some knowledge in terms of regulatory changes that may be coming up, any risk to the crop that may be coming up. Again, that pulls in that vertical integration and really seeing the full chain. Risk management, again, I already spoke to stabilizing pricing, but that's also as critical. Seeing trends. So we have a full group, bigger than a group within McDonald's. We've restructured recently. We certainly have pulled in a lot of folks that know about social media. They're looking at Twitter, Facebook. We have great penetration to understand what are McDonald's customers and others' customers talking about and what's important to them. Cargill's doing the same thing. So we're getting information from multiple sources and really connecting the dots between, again, what's important and how do we continue to evolve to make sure that we remain relevant. And that's really the gist of the slide. But again, you know, if you look at the little box that talks about leading hybrids, it's about continuing to evolve leading hybrids. And that is, again, another benefit that we do receive from our partnership. Continuing along that same vein, what I think is pretty darn significant is the fact that over a 6-year period, yields have improved by about 20%. So reducing acreage by 20%, you know, I think that helps us remain competitive. I'm certain that it does. So if we're looking at commodity canola versus our high oleic canola, you know, there's some comparisons, but there's definitely some benefits by partnering and really continuing to evolve the high oleic canola. And we just don't get that from a commodity product. Now, back to the consumer dilemma that I spoke about earlier. We're working hard to build trust for our customers and helping them understand why McDonald's food is good food, why the components that go into our food are good quality components. I think doing that, obviously, it's just good business, but also understanding the companies that we're buying from. What are the ingredients that are being used? In the oil space, it's about understanding the types of oil that are being used and the health properties of those oils. So to that point, this slide makes me want to sing "O Canada" with high respect, because in Canada, they started Our Food, Your Questions. So if you pop on to mcdonalds.com, I think .ca, the Canadian website, you can plug in a question about food. So if you plug in oil, there's a question that'll ask, you know, how often is oil changed in the restaurants? There's another question that talks about the makeup of oil. So in Canada, as Mitch mentioned, it's vegan friendly. In the US, we're not quite there, but we copied Canada highly and created our own Our Food, Your Questions. Again, it's another way to help drive understanding of our products and to help build trust with our customers.
Okay, so I think we're in the final leg of the race here. So, in closing, you know, it's about collaboration. It's collaborating for our mutual success. And I think the key here is that, again, like everything Gail talked about and how we do business, it's about partnerships. And it doesn't, we believe that it's not one just leg of the chain that needs to be the communicator, needs to be the changer, needs to be the implementation of anything for our mutual success. I think the key, again, is that we work together and we will achieve what we're looking for, which is success in our businesses, environmental sustainability, as well as feeling good about what we do and giving back to the community. So with that, I'll just say thank you for Gail and I. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning. And we appreciate all you do for us. Thanks.